Hello friends, welcome to my channel Power BI Skills. Through this channel, I share with my viewers a lot of tips, tricks, and best practices we can use in Power BI in order to develop stunning dashboards. I'm very excited about today's video because today I'm going to share an amazing trick of selecting different calculations and measures in Power BI through a slicer to get the desired outcome. I'm sure you will appreciate this and get full benefit out of this trick. Let's understand this trick with the help of an example. So this is the sales dashboard I had shared with my management, showing the sales done by various salesmen and also showing the sales by product. But management has an expectation to evaluate the data with multiple parameters. They want to understand how much sales we have done in USD currency, how much sales is in local currency, how much is the quantity we have sold, how much is the cost of sales, how much profit we have earned with different products and by different salesmen, how much is the percentage of total sales done by various salesmen and done with different product sales. So, how we can achieve this? So, one way could be we can have multiple dashboards for each of the parameter. So we can create a separate visual for INR currency, separate visual for USD sales, separate visual for cost, profit, and so on. But that would be very overwhelming for the management and it would be very tedious for us as well. What could be the alternative way? Is there a possibility maybe we can create a one visual with a slicer of all the calculation options which we can select from the slicer and will change the visual accordingly. This would be very handy for the management for all our viewers as well. So how to achieve this? Friends, we know that in slicer we can only add columns but not the measures. In this video, we will learn how can we add measures or our calculations in the slicer and thereby make our visuals more dynamic. Before we start, I would request you to please like and share my videos and subscribe my channel in case you believe that you are getting benefits through this channel. This would motivate me to create more such useful contents for my viewers. So let's get started. In this example, we have details of sales done by various salesmen, the product they have sold, the quantity they have sold, and the state or city where they have sold their products. In the other tab, we have the cost and the selling price of the products. And in the third tab, we have USD to INR currency rate. So let's upload these three tables in Power BI. I have uploaded all three tabs in Power BI. You can see the data which is appearing in Power BI. Now, to add the measures and calculations in a slicer, it's a four-step process. So let's go step by step. Step one is we'll have to do all the calculations and create all the measures. So in this particular case, we'll have to create these six calculations and create the measures. So let's first start creating measures and calculating these numbers. So here we have a sales data table. We have to calculate the sales first, sales in local currency. To calculate the sales in local currency, I'll have to first bring the selling price to the sales data table with the help of lookup value function. For that, I'll create a new column. I'll name that column selling price. Use lookup value function. Lookup value is similar to the VLOOKUP function we have in Excel. So in lookup value function, first we'll pick the column which we have to bring here, which is the selling price from the rate list. Then the common identifier in the rate list table only, which is the product name, and same common identifier or a common field which is there in the sales column, which is our product name. I'll add another column and bring the cost price as well. I'll name this as cost price. Same way we will bring the cost price. So from the rate list, I'll pick cost price, then product name, which is a common field or common column, and then same product name in the sales data table as well. Now we have selling price and cost price. I will add another column and add the currency as well, which would help me to convert this into US dollars. I'll add the title as currency, lookup value. I'll go to rate list, currency, then again product name is the common column, and then sales data, product name. Now we have brought selling price, cost price, and currency. Now let's go to the report view and start creating our measure. First, we'll create the measure for sales. For that, I'll first go to the sales data, click on three dots, select new measure. I'll name this as sales. Here I would use SumX function. Friends, in case you are new to Power BI, then I would recommend you to first go through my video on DAX function. You can see the I button which is appearing on the screen having a link of the DAX function video. You can refer to that first. So in SumX, as we know, where we have to do the calculation of rows and columns, then we have to use SumX. So in SumX, as per the syntax, we'll have to first select the table. So the table would be the sales data. And then we have to write the expression. Expression is sales would be quantity multiplied by the selling price. So I'll write quantity and selling price. So we have created one measure. Now we have to create second measure for cost price. We'll again use SumX function. First give the reference of our table, which is the sales data table. Then it would be quantity and cost price. Now I'll have to calculate or create another measure. So this is sales in USD currency. So this would be our sales measure multiplied by our FX rate, which is coming from the FX table. I would write sum FX rate and then conversion rate in USD. So we have done three calculations. Quantity we already have, so we won't have to create any specific measure for quantity. So let's go to the new measure, and now we will create profit. Profit would be my sales minus cost of sales. And the last measure would be my percentage of sales. Percentage of sales. I would write sales in the numerator, and then I will use the formula calculate sales, comma, then I will be using all filter, because in the denominator I'll have to use the the total sales amount in the denominator to calculate the percentage. For calculating the total sales amount, I'll have to use all filter, where the system would remove all the filters from the table and calculate the entire sales amount. So in case you don't have understanding of all filter, you can refer to my previous video where we had discussed about all except and all selected filters. And I'll add give the reference of the table name, which is sales data. So we have now all calculations and measures ready. Now move to our second step. Create a table with list of all measure names. So let's create a table. For that, I'll select this table option. So we have two options to create a table. Either we can create a table in Excel and upload it, or we can simply create a table from here, the table option. You can see the blank table would appear. You have to name this table as slicer. We can write it as slicer value, and here we will write sales in USD currency, currency, sales in INR currency. Then we have cost of sales. Then we have quantity sold. Then we have profit from sales. And then last we have percentage of sales. So I will load this table. Now you can see this table is loaded. I'll again name this as slicer values. I'll create a slicer from the slicer table which we had just created. For that, I'll go to new visual. From the drop down, I'll select slicer, and From add data, I select our column slicer value. So now we have a slicer for all the calculation or measures is ready. Now let me first create a column visual and donut visual from the sales value which is available with us. So let me just quickly create that visual. I'll go to new visual. I will add data. From sales data, I will select sales. I will change the visual type to column, and I will add x-axis data with name of the salesman. So this is the column visual, and let me simply add another visual which is the donut chart visual. I'll select donut chart from the drop down. In legend, I will select the product name. Values, I will select the sales value. Okay, so we have these two visuals ready. Now you would realize that the slicer which we have created from the slicer table is not working because this is nowhere related to the below mentioned visuals, and system is not able to read or relate this to the data. So first we'll have to enable the Power BI system to read these slicer value. So this is our third step. So the third step is create a measure for Power BI to read the slicer values. So let's create this measure. I will go to sales data. I will create new measure, and I would name this as measure selection, and here I would use the DAX function selected value. So, and here I would uh, add the slicer column which we had created, the slicer value column. So if I add a visual, let's say a card visual, and if I add the slicer values in this visual, now we can say that now this card is interacting with the slicer. So whatever options I will select in my slicer, this card is reflecting those options. So this is working. Now let's move on to our fourth step. Now the step 4 is attach our calculation to the measure names appearing in the slicer. So this is the first and final step. Let's go to the Power BI and create a measure to link the calculations with the measure names which we had created in slicer. I'll create a new measure. I'll name this as calculation, and here I'll be using a switch true function. Switch true. Switch true is similar to our if function. The only difference is like we can add multiple conditions in the switch true functions, which is far more simpler than if function. I'll add my first condition if my measure selection is equal to cost of sales, then my calculation would be cost of sales. So basically I'm linking the slicer name with our measures and calculations. If my measure selection is equal to profit from sales, then my measure would be profit. If my measure selection is quantity sold, then since we do not have a measure for quantity sold, we'll have to use a sum function and we'll have to give the reference of the column and the table name. If my measure selection is sales in INR currency, then my measure or calculation would be sales, which is in local currency. If my measure selection is sales in USD currency, then my calculation would be sales in USD currency. I missed out percentage, so let me add percentage as well, percentage of sales, shift enter. If my measure selection is percentage of sales, then my calculation would be percentage of sales, and that's it. I would hit enter. Now this measure is ready. Now I have linked all my slicer names with my calculations or measures. Now what I have to do, I'll have to go to my column visual and I'll have to go to add data option, and from y-axis I'll remove sales and instead I will add the measure which we have calculated, which is calculations. So now it is ready. Same I'll do with my donut chart as well. I'll go to add data, I'll remove sales, and I will add calculations here. In column chart, I would add the data labels as well. For that, I'll go to format. I will enable the data labels. I will bold the data labels values, and in column, I would change the color to purple. Okay, so this is the column chart and the donut chart, and this would work with the slicer values. So let's say we want to have sales in INR currency. I'll click on this. I'll get sales in INR currency in both the visuals, sales by salesman as well as sales by product. So all these numbers would appear in INR currency. Similarly in USD currency, similarly quantity sold, profit, cost, and so on. The only drawback here is the title is not dynamic. The workaround which I can think of is we can remove the title from here, from both the visual, and I would instead use this card as title. So this is the title for these visual, like this is cost of sales. Similarly, this is profit from sales. If sales is in USD currency, then the title is showing the sales is in USD currency. So this is what we have. And there is another drawback here is with this trick, you cannot change the format of the numbers which are appearing in these visuals. You cannot convert these numbers into USD currency, or maybe I would say you cannot uh, uh, add the US dollar sign with the amount or numbers which are appearing. Similarly, you cannot add the percentage sign. So this is the only drawback we have in this trick. But if you add the title, so this would explicitly say that these numbers are in INR currency or USD currency, or what exactly these numbers are. So I'll be sharing the example which we have used in this video. In the description field, you can download this example and you can try practicing this trick on your own. If you have any queries or you have any doubts relating to what we have discussed in our today's video, please feel free to put your queries and doubts in the comments, and I will respond to it as soon as possible. Friends, I hope you have learned this trick and you would be able to implement the same in your assignments and in your dashboards. Thanks for watching, friends. Bye bye. Take care.